Did you know that if food waste was its own country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter on the planet, right behind US and China and ahead of India? So we're not just talking about food waste here, we're literally talking about how it's cooking the planet with the meals that we're throwing away. Welcome back to Sit for Change, the channel for event planners who want to plan smarter, do better, and still get the job done. I'm Tammy, and today I'm joined by Robert Lee, someone who has built an entire organization around the gap between food insecurity and food waste. Robert, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organization and why this cause is so important to you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My name is Robert Lee. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Rescuing Leftover Cuisine. Super self-explanatory name. It's super important to me. Honestly, it's very personal to me. I grew up in New York. Classic kind of, immigrant story. My parents came here looking for a better life. But they struggled. They didn't know the language. They couldn't hold down jobs. So I grew up honestly thinking that food insecurity and hunger was just like normal. I thought everyone was struggling to find food. And I was that kid in school that would take home baby carrots and apples. And I was shocked when kids would throw out like the edges of their sandwiches because the crusts weren't good. And I was like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? That's like half the sandwich. And so, I was just that, excuse me. I was just one of those, crazy people rescuing the food all the time. And for me, I think it also was something that kind of hit on my more logical side as well in terms of why is this system set up in a way that, encourages food waste, right?
Yep.
That kind of, the portion sizes in America, the way we set up everything seems to want us to overconsume, right? And it seems like that kind of disconnect and trying to solve for that was also something that made me want to work on rescuing our food. And so both mind and heart, I suppose, really kind of got me to do this.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I resonate a lot with that. And, one of the reasons why I'm super excited to have you join us today and a bit advocate against food waste as well. Because, similar to you, same, first generation graduate here, also immigrant family. So we've experienced that. But I'm on the opposite. My parents like took on a lot of debt even to just make sure we had food on the table. So I knew that my family struggled to make sure that we ate. So this is something that is also really important to me. So thank you so much for everything that RLC does. So my next question for you is, for those who are new to food rescue, what exactly is food rescue? And how does it differ from just when people think about traditional food donations?
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's interesting because I now just casually say food rescue, assuming people know. But
Yeah.
when we first started in 2013, no one knew what food rescue was, and
Mhm.
I literally had to carry around the federal Good Samaritan, the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act of 1996, and people thought it was illegal. People thought food rescue was completely illegal, but really, what it is with food going to waste at restaurants and honestly whenever you see people there's always going to be food,
Mhm.
so it's cafeterias, it's events, it's all kinds of places, and we literally rescue the food that would go to waste, rescue it from going to the garbage, and we bring it to people who need it at homeless shelters, soup kitchens, food pantries. So the term food rescue has become more and more the normal
Mhm.
to describe organizations like Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, which is amazing. It's an
Yeah.
incredible momentum.
Amazing. So, for event planners, I think this concept is still new to our industry, right? I think I do agree with you. I've been in the event industry for 10, 15 years. I've done a lot of events in New York. And I think from the corporate side, I think there's still a lot of hesitation with, donating food and also food rescue. So, for audience in the watching our channel, what should event planners consider when they want to build in food rescue as part of the sustainable event planning? Why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, event planners obviously you have so much going on, right? Like you have to make sure that the event is great, and that your clients are happy. We try to make sure that it makes it as easy as possible for you all. We try to plug into any system, right? For our restaurants, for example, we just show up whenever they want us to show up. So if they do inventories on Fridays, when they right before they close, 15 minutes before, and they want us to be there, they will be there, right? it's the same thing for event planners. We want to make sure that, once your clients are happy and they're done with the food, then you can donate the food to us. We'll show up at whatever time makes the most sense to you all. And if it actually makes more sense, some of the event venues that we work with, they actually want to store the food overnight because it ends too late, right? And so they'll just store it for us, and in the morning they want to take care of it. That's completely fine if you're tired at night and you just want to, store it, and we'll come rescue it in the morning, right? That's totally fine. And so there's a lot of logistics, a lot of kind of planning and things to kind of worry about. But we try to make it as easy as possible for you all. I think you touched on some of the kind of, environmental concerns around food waste already. But truly, it is a massive, massive drain on our natural resources, right?
Hmm.
And this is something I think about a lot, right? Because people nowadays are just, they're so hung up on the use of AI and the water usage. And to me,
I
it's
am.
wild. It's wild because the impact of food waste is massive. And
Yeah,
yet people have no qualms throwing out food 3 times a day, right? Like,
yeah.
to me, it's like a little bit of education, right? The fact that we use half the US land, 80% of fresh water, and 10% of our energy budget to produce the food that we have, and then to waste 40% of it is wild, right? And in a developed country like the US, the biggest culprits are us, it's the consumers. And then
Mhm.
it goes up the supply chain, then it's restaurants, then it's, wholesalers, etc. And so, I think for event planners and for all of us, really, anything we can do to reduce that excess food, at least give it another chance to feed someone, especially someone who desperately needs that food, is super important.
Thank you for that. I think what you touched on, the education piece, is really important on both of those questions, right? I think this is something that event planners, myself included, want to focus more on when they talk about sustainable event planning, is to educate our population on how to make things as simple as easy as possible when it comes to sustainable event planning. Like we talk about, cutting back on beef and considering other sources of protein, like reducing the emissions that way. So in terms of process and costs, right? Can you talk a little bit about working with RLC? Talk us through like the beginning. How do we initiate RLC? What does that process look like from beginning to end? And then what are the costs and time associated with working with RLC?
Yeah, I'll describe the ideal best case scenario
Okay,
just because with one of our
absolutely.
partners, what we have is I think, a beautiful setup.
Hmm.
It's a venue space. And what they do is they literally have a checkbox in their client intake form. And what they do is they just have that checkbox say, would you like to make your, event a food waste free event,
Hmm.
for an extra $200?
Hmm.
And what that does is essentially people opt in. Usually that $200 is like, drop in the bucket for their clients,
Yeah.
budgets. And so they would say, hey, yeah, we had a client that checked off the box. The event is going to be on this date at this time, so show up at this time. And usually for that setup, it's like a Google form, so we can also set it so it automatically gets sent to us, so you don't have to let us know. And so once we are notified, we just set up the logistics. You guys don't have to worry about anything. And then the pickup happens. But once the client pays the $200, we actually have it set up with that particular one. We have it split so that half of that $100 actually goes to the venue as a
Yeah.
referral fee. And
Yeah.
then the $100 covers our costs. Obviously, we're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, but we do have costs, right? We have rescuers, we have labor, we have pickup costs, we have rising gas costs, we
Yeah.
have packaging, etc., that we need to cover. And that $100 covers that for us. And so for us, we kind of see it as a win-win-win kind of situation. All right, we're actually even happy to provide like little placards that say this event is a food waste free event, and give you ideas on how to market that, and
Mhm.
make it a big deal. Um, but truly, it allows the venue to make, a good, kind of brand association, but also cover their costs and, get more revenue. And it allows us to rescue the food, and everyone wins. But that's usually how we like to set up, in the ideal case scenario.
Mhm.
But we could also have it be a lower tech or a lower integrated system where, you offer it to your client. The client just lets you know, and then you let us know, and we can just do it much more manually. But
Mhm.
we would love to integrate into your systems, whatever, if it's Eventbrite or whatever it is. we're happy to integrate and make it as easy as possible for logistics.
Event planners are so busy, so the easier that you can make the process, the better. So I think
100%.
our
Everyone's busy.
listeners will love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Segueing from that, because our audience does also include venues and caterers, right? So you talked about how to partner with them and how to make it easy for them. Let's talk through a little bit more about the operational details that event planners should consider, be mindful of when coordinating a food rescue, but on the venue side. So what do they
Yes.
need to make sure the venue is aware of in terms of timing, packaging, communication, or paperwork, things like that? Either they need to be aware of, or the venue or the caterer need to be aware of or have on hand.
A great question. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, right? Like food is a very heavily regulated space, and rightfully so, right? We don't want to make someone sick, right?
Mhm,
And so, for example, Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, we obviously have to have the proper licenses and insurance and everything. So we're happy to provide any COIs that you all need. So as a venue, you might need that. Um, but also in terms of, logistics, any potentially hazardous food can't be left out in the temperature danger zone for more than 4 hours. And so we ensure that, if there's an event that typically maybe not doesn't have sternos or doesn't have like a sneeze guard or whatever,
mhm,
or maybe, sometimes it's a little bit more loose in terms of, using sharing utensils and stuff like that, then we do have to be a little bit more strict, unfortunately.
mhm,
This is true. We do have to make sure that we adhere to those standards. Our team has the food safety protection licenses as well. And so we're happy to, provide a person on staff if one of the venues don't have it. Um, but typically, venues do. But other than that, in terms of logistics, we try to make it as easy as possible. Like truly, in a lot of cases, and a lot of our partners, we've seen that they already have hot holding in place or cold storage, etc. And so it's already in the right temperatures by the end of the night, and so it's just about the transport time. So, and we always transport well within the 4 hours, usually 15-30 minutes.
mhm,
Um, and so it's much less of a concern. Packaging is also one of the logistics pieces that gets a little bit more complicated as well. But for a lot of our catering companies and our venues, they have aluminum tins and boxes and bags. But that's also where that kind of referral fee can kind of come in. We're happy to pay for that packaging and provide that so that it's as easy as possible for you all. Um, but yeah, other than that, again, we try to make it as smooth and as easy as possible. If you need, COIs to enter the building, to ensure that we're using the right loading docks or et cetera, we're happy to do that.
Robert, this has been such a great conversation, and I really thank you and RLC for the things that you're doing for our community. Before we go and wrap up this conversation, is there anything else that you want to add to our conversation or share with the audience?
No, I mean, I truly think that, we're living in a time where I believe that kind of food rescue will become the universal standard and the rule rather than the exception. I feel like, it's just a common sense, right? And
Mhm,
what's beautiful about it is both political parties can get on the same page about it. It's just, what would you do with the excess food anyways, right? Like there's just so many things that make sense for this. And just the fact that over the last decade, we see food rescue go from not being known at all to becoming a term that I can use and people recognize.
mhm.
It makes me really excited for the next 10 years, right? And what happens in the next 20 years. And so I truly believe that this change is coming and we're approaching a tipping point where, all restaurants, all catering companies, all venues will donate because they want to, because it makes economic sense too, right? And so I'm super excited about that and really appreciate you having me on.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Everyone can find RLC at rescuingleftovercuisine.org. In the description below, there's reference links and contact information for Robert as well if you want to reach out to him, and his link to his new book. I like how he's
Oh,
very humble
yes.
enough to not to mention that. So that is also there as well. And for our audience, I want to leave you with this question to sit with because honestly, I love for you to answer in the comments. So just let us know, reach out to us. What is the biggest barrier you personally hit when trying to do something about food waste at your events? Was it the venue? Was it the caterer, the client, or something else entirely? Costs. I've definitely come into contact with that. So, RLC can help you solve all of those issues and make it as simple as
We can
possible.
try.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Robert, again. And as always, for our audience, keep sipping for change, and we'll see you on our next episode. Bye.